And I don't know why. And I was like, I want to die. Like, I was like, I don't know why. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, I don't want anymore. I don't want this anymore. Anything is better than this emotion that I'm feeling now.
Welcome. Hi.
Hi.
I'm so happy to finally reconnect.
I'm happy that you're finally doing this again.
Yes. And I want to first and foremost welcome you to Louder by Exhale.
Thank you.
Louder is where we journey into the human emotions, where we talk louder about our stories that connect us all. And today we have with us Shawn, and he doesn't need any introduction, but for some he might. So I'll leave that to you. Shawn, what do you do?
Nothing.
Nothing and everything.
I make ha-has. I actually don't know like where to begin in like a self-introduction, but I don't think anyone does, unless you have like a script memorized. Like, oh, my name is John and I do this.
My name is Shawn.
Yeah. I mean, I think because I okay, comedy. I guess is the easiest.
Exactly.
That's the easiest way to put it.
Okay, so what do you do?
Comedy and entertainment.
You make people laugh.
I do stand up and I make content. And I try to use that to take care of myself and my family.
Okay.
So I think there is no like direct understanding of what I myself don't know what I do, because saying I'm a comedian doesn't feel like it fills my glass. Saying I'm a content creator doesn't feel like it fills my glass. Saying I'm just a son or a brother or a friend, again, like they fill little bits of a glass, and I think it's everything that I do that makes me feel like who I am, because I've been working for a very long time. Like, I started working when I was quite young, so I always was brought up with this idea of wanting to have my own business and wanting to expand on everything. Like, I can't just take one thing and go like, okay, this is enough. I just want more, but not in the greedy sense, more in the like, I just want to do more.
You want to express yourself more.
Yeah, and it helps keep the hamster wheel like moving, like otherwise the ADHD rips it apart.
And how fast is this hamster wheel moving?
I don't know. It's just
keep up.
It's like murmurs. It's just like murmur, murmur, and then like, I pull a sentence out and I'm like, oh, I'd put it over here.
This is good for my show.
Yeah, I'll use this one. So, yeah, I think you know who I would love to like follow the path of. Like, I love Kevin Hart for comedy, and I love him for his like business, and I love him for his family like approach.
Yeah.
Because I was watching the Mark Twain Awards.
I texted you and I watched that.
I watched it because
weird.
of you telling me. Because I didn't know it was even out, and I had stopped watching the awards like a long time ago. When after Chappelle won it like years ago, I was like, all right, forget it, I'm done watching it. But then I watching him like with his family and seeing like all the stuff he does, because it was talking about just his comedy, but I know the businesses that he's opened and the stuff he's done for his community, and so it's like Philadelphia is not like the easiest place, and he created like a lot of I think it was like wealth education facilities for people in his old neighborhood to understand what to do with money once they get it or how to get it.
Yeah.
And I always thought like that's something I wanted to do back in Lebanon or something in the region, like
for your community.
Not just for my community, but like as Arabs,
Yeah.
Especially what's happening now, like it's so important to like unite over like one identity rather than like, oh, I am this, you are this, you are that.
And it's crazy when I was watching the awards and I saw him up there and I saw how many people have been like pushing on his success and achievements and how he's helped them. A lot of that reminded me of you and how you are and how you lead with your comedy. It's always with, maybe I know this because we've had deep conversations before, but you lead with purpose and you lead with intention to truly fill the hearts of people for a reason and a purpose. And maybe I would love to know why you chose laughter as that purpose for yourself and for you to fill the lives of others through laughter.
So, funny enough, I would, if you asked me this like last week or before, like I went to Abu Dhabi, I would have had no clue how to answer it, because it's just been a part of my life, or I tried to make it the biggest part of my life for the longest time. Sometimes naturally and sometimes forcefully. Like I was like, no, I have to be the funny person. I have to. And then I decided to not wear that mask once, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be comedy. I don't want to do anything with that. Which also felt out of place. Everything felt out of place at one point. And a good friend of mine had introduced me to a woman named Carla, who is Dave Chappelle's publicist. And I thought a publicist is just someone like you hire for the side and then you do it. But it turns out that person is like integrated with your life, like super heavy. And I was just like honored to be in the same room as someone like that. And we were just talking, and she asked me the same thing, like, you know, so why comedy for you? And I couldn't answer, but as I was explaining it, it was the first time I ever answered that question out loud where I resonated with my own answer. Because usually it was just like, you know, laughter is laughter, it's the best way, and blah, blah, blah. But the real reason was I literally had like a epiphany moment there when I was like, holy shit, I just recognized it. And she's like, yeah, like it was a moment that we all shared, and I was like, this is crazy. And basically it was that, you know, my parents separated a long time ago. My sister was older than I was, so her school schedule was different than mine, and my mom was always working like 2 jobs. She always had 2 operations that she was running. So when I was a kid at home, like, obviously you're a kid, you're not going to want to study. So what do? You try to play a game, you try to distract yourself. And the only thing I did was I used to play comedy shows in the background. I don't know why. I think it was when I first discovered YouTube. The first like viral clips I saw were from Russell Peters and Sugar Sammy, these 2 comedians. Really funny. And then it just became like a force of habit to have that. And then at that moment, I also realized that was like a replacement of a father thing, because you had like a grown-ass man speaking in a room all the time. So it made me feel like there was like like someone at home with me. A
father figure.
Yeah. So, and I had just realized that there, which was like last week, which was crazy for me.
So it was like your aha moment.
Yeah, it was not just aha moment. It was like, oh my God, like it's like the little version of me and the big version of me just finally went like,
oh my God.
I understand, you know. And that was crazy. That was like, honestly, that
is truly powerful.
Yeah. You know when you didn't even know that your nose was blocked, and then all of a sudden you're just like breathing and you're like, oh my God, it's open. That's exactly what it felt like. And it obviously for them, it was just, they were like, oh, okay, it's nice you got to see that. But for me, that was like, oh, it makes sense now. So but it actually makes me question, like, I don't know if anyone's a natural anything. I think from a really young age, we don't know how early programming starts. You know, it's hard to tell. I mean, people say you form memories from when you're 5 and above, but I remember shit from when I was 2. Like, it's crazy. So comedy, I think, just naturally became the healing mechanism for myself. And then I found it easy to navigate. It's really not that hard to make people laugh. It's a difficult job to do, but everyone wants to laugh, like really, really. So even people who are like angry, when they get the opportunity to laugh, they want it. You know, it's not like something no one wants to show.
You've been using comedy as your healing mechanism since 2006.
Yeah.
Let's say. How has it evolved since then that comedy has helped heal parts of you, has helped save moments of sadness, devastation, depression? How did comedy lift you up? How were you able to use that for your expression?
Ironically, for a long time, comedy was the thing that was suffocating me the most. It almost like destroyed me. And so I used comedy to fit in, because I thought it was the safest mechanism. Because when you make someone laugh, they
instantly love you.
Not that, but they don't hurt you. I used to get bullied a lot when I was younger. So when you make them laugh, the likelihood of them hitting you is less, you know. So unless the joke is that they hit you and you make a funny sound, then they'll do it again. But that was always like the social lubricant for me. That was like the alcohol. You know, when people go like, oh, I need a drink before I can go socialize, whatever. That was my alcohol, basically. I would use that to try to connect with people and to make them like me, because I didn't feel like I had anyone. I grew up very alone most of the time, so I always wanted people to like me. That was as cut and clean. Fast forward, like, I started doing it more often, and then I realized that I can do accents but I grew up with everyone doing accents, so it didn't really become like a very special trait, you know. Like, doing an accent just became like something that everyone did. But then I started realizing that my range was a bit more than others, and then I could just learn more.
And very spot on.
Thank you.
Very spot on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I started to learn more about like the cultures and the nuances, and that's when it became like really enjoyable for me, because I was like, oh, it feels accurate. It feels fitting. That's what I could say. Fast forward through high school, when I started to really think of, okay, what if I did stand up as an actual thing? And then that idea was killing. I was super nervous, like a fire in my stomach at all times. The second I'd think of it, I would get this incredibly, like as if you ignited a chimney, like under, and it just, everything blew up.
And did you run away from it?
Yes. I would just suppress the idea. Yeah, always. Until today, I still fear it. Like, I have a show tonight, and I'm like dreading it. I'm lost. Yesterday and today, my brain is like scattered all over the place, because I try not to fixate on that feeling of like anxiety and nervousness. Although that's what is the beauty of it. If something in your life can give you that rush every single time, then there's something very unique about that. But I go to uni and I try stand up for the first time, and it was a horrible night. I hated it, but I had signed up for a night which I thought was the original night because I wasn't really prepared because I didn't know if I was performing or I was just meeting a comedian. It's a silly misunderstanding, but I thought I was going to go meet a comedian. Turns out I was going on stage.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had signed up for what I thought was my first comedy night the following weekend. So had I not done that, I definitely would have never done comedy again because that was traumatizing that night. I got heckled on my first time. It was a whole... So I didn't want to do it. I did this whole thing, and it was a competition of 10 comedians, and I ended up winning that night, which I was like super... Like, I was like, what? And then that preceded the next show and next show, and I just kept on going and going and going.
Despite the fear.
Despite the fear, until one night, I had... The biggest show for me at that time was like 80 people or 90 people, but I had packed the room. How? I don't know. I had just started my social stuff. I had 1,000 followers. It wasn't anything. It was like a personal Instagram at that point. But then the guy who was running that night and the comedians who were there that night, when I got off stage, first of all, the guy pulled me off early. He threatened to not pay me. It was like 400 dirhams. It wasn't like a fucking... He threatened not to pay me if I didn't bring 4 guests, which I was like, okay, if I bring... 75 more than what you asked me, do I get more? No, he's such a dickhead. And this guy is like he's very well known in the community of being one of the worst people to work with. And I'm sure he's a nice person and in some regards in his life, or he has a nice side to him, but I have yet to see it, and a lot of people have yet to see it. But apparently he's changing now, which I always give everyone the benefit of that. But at the time, Satan spawn. Hate that guy. And the other people that were there as well were also like just ripping me to shreds. Like for me, it was a great show, and we got a lot of laughs, and it was a fun night. And as soon as I got off, the first thing I said, I was like, what can I do to be better? And I sat down. It was like a table like this full of the comedians. There was only 3 comedians who like gave me some actual constructive criticism. Some were just like, it doesn't matter, you're doing great, just keep going. But then the rest were just tearing me into shreds. Like, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to do this. I was a professional comedian. My uncle is this, blah, blah, blah. And like, they're just comparing me to like, I don't know, people who've been doing comedy for like 20 years, saying that like I'm not getting the same laughs. It needs to be more laughs per minute, and it became so constructive. Like it became too captive in its own form, which means that they kept on putting standards and like you have to have this many laughs per minute. And
they kind of tried to box you in with the expectation and the comparison.
Not just that. They took something that I viewed as something as fluid and free, and they tried to put it into a parameter of measurement. And I was like, you can't measure laughs. Like, who the fuck measures laughs per minute? And a lot of people, that's how the industries run. But I was like, it doesn't need to be, like 100%. You don't need to follow everything that is already said and done. And I stopped comedy for 6 years after that. And
that goes to show, honestly, how community and people being compassionate and empathetic can actually make or break a person.
100%.
And honestly, Shawn, I'll tell you this right now. It's such a loss to us all if you're not doing comedy.
Thank you.
Truly. We would be losing something today if you're not doing comedy, because the way you make us laugh is very unique to your own being. And I'll tell you that I'm really happy you're taking that route.
Thank you.
Honestly, I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of your journey. You entertain me a lot.
I'm glad.
On my lowest days, I love going into your account and just laughing and forgetting everything that I'm thinking about, overthinking about, worrying about. And that's what you're doing to others. And I think that's what you're doing to yourself.
I hope so. I mean, for myself, it's become easier to deal with life and my own things, but the goal has always been to do what comedy did for me to other people. And that a big reason of coming back into comedy was essentially, I was with someone at the time who kept on sending me comedy shows, and why don't we go watch this, and why don't we go see that, or why don't you try visit the performance? And I felt suffocated. I hated it. I didn't want to see. I couldn't watch comedy for 5 years. No stand-up shows, no specials.
Wow.
Because when I watched it just reminded me that I'm not doing what I longed for, and what I loved and what I felt like I'm meant to be doing.
Wow.
So I ended up starting comedy again just so I can start watching comedy again. Because when I watch comedy, I learn and I enjoy and I embrace. But when I watch comedy and I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm strangling myself. So because I loved watching it, I just wanted to go back to a position where I was like, okay, if doing comedy means that I can start watching again, then that's the deal. I have to make it myself. And then I did my first show in
I
2022.
love that.
And then I continued doing shows periodically, and then I would take some months off, some months on. And then when I left the job, I don't know if I got fired or I left, because like it was funny. It's like we had the same conversation twice. It was like I was like, I have to tell you something. He's like, I have to tell you something. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? You know? But like,
Oh my God.
best decision ever. I'm glad it was made earlier for me, because I had my like letter of resignation like prepared. But I remember the first 2 weeks after the job, I got sick immediately, and I was dying. Like I didn't. It was a lot of fear, a lot of
When
release.
I first met you,
it was a lot.
and I think the same thing for you, we both looked at each other like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You
But
belong right
that's the
here.
conversation what we had as well.
It's the first combo we had,
Yeah.
actually.
It was just like, this doesn't really matter. This is just kind of like,
Yeah, you're supposed to be on the stage, you're supposed to be behind the mic or whatever, and it's like, but let's just continue.
Let's just
continue
move
our
through,
day for
yeah.
now. Yeah, and it's very interesting how our paths started unfolding throughout these weeks, and it was very
pretty
quick.
fast. Yeah, it was pretty
Very
fast
quick.
too. It was,
Within 2 months, it's like, okay, do you believe in?
it was like those Russian dolls, but like kind of they spilled out. You didn't take them out one by one. It just kind of opened. Like, all right, fucking go.
Yeah, everything just fell.
Yeah.
And I think it's better. It's a waste of
100%,
time when
100%.
we need to take our time. But we've already done that. I mean, you've taken 6 years and allowed fear
Yeah.
to be part of your life, right? And I could say the same about myself. I've allowed fear to be part of my life for a long time, which caused me a lot of anxiety and soon after caused me borderline depression, which I'm dealing with and I dealt with. When I say I'm dealing with, I mean anxiety never truly goes away. It really depends on where you are in life. And then it starts being, how thick is your skin? Kind of.
Do you
thing.
feel like when you develop a certain thickness of your skin, at some point you also trap in the anxiety?
In that thick skin, you're like, can I get out of here? Actually,
because that's what I feel like happens. Like sometimes you do develop thick skin and you're like, okay, it doesn't get through me, but then you're like, oh, but also the shit inside me isn't getting out. So it's like,
exactly.
it's kind
You
of a
said
trap.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said it. The shit inside me isn't getting out, but this is what we need to work on. And this is how we become self-healers. We grow thick skin to the world, but not against ourselves. So our thick skin is made to manage all of these things, fear that keeps us from doing comedy, from doing what we love, you know, and ensuring the balance of not growing thick skin onto ourselves and making our hearts stone. So we need to always find those tools that allow us to release and understand what these are for us. What are these tools for, Shawn?
I think comedy was the first thing that I was
Came up.
Yeah, but also
Do you have other tools that you use within?
yeah. Music, food, traveling, like just anything that has to do with like
Engaging with life's beauty.
Yeah, and not just that, it's stuff that you can't or shouldn't understand. And every time I try to do anything in my life that is to understand creativity, it turns it off for me completely. Writing turns me off from comedy. Understanding sheet music turns me off from music. Understanding recipes turn me off from cooking. Like, and I don't know what it is. I know that they're there for a reason, and I know you can master it. Once you master that, you can actually express more. But there's this simple thing in me where I'm like, but I
love the flow.
Yeah, I like the not knowing, you know. Even like dancing, like I love to dance like an idiot. And I remember I was taking like tango lessons with my old partner because she was a dancer, and I enjoyed it because it was fun and I was doing it for her. But I didn't enjoy the fact that you have to hold in a certain way. There's steps, there's guidance, and like I understand that once you learn that, you can really expand on that more, which is the goal, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate anyone who does anything in that, whether it be understanding sheet music and how to write music itself or all of those. But there is something that's so
beautiful
about the childish nature of picking up something just to do
100%.
it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I wish I could pick up a guitar and play it, you know, like a maestro, because there's sounds in my head that I want to come out in life, but the process of learning it puts me off from it. So it's strange because like I appreciate that the most, but the rigidity of it, which allows you to expand more, turns me off entirely. Like I wish I could just do what I feel. And I'm sure there's a certain frequency you can reach where that does happen. Like you don't need those rigid steps that are created for people to learn. You can just find your own way that really speaks to you.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find your flow if you're not born with that, but you love it.
I agree.
And I think these things are necessary for those people,
100%.
you know. But I do get you, that flow of being free and doing what you love and what you like and in the way that you love and the way that you like, and breaking those rules is like definitely has a different type of essence to what you're doing.
Honestly, be dead without the musical side or the artistic side or creativity, like whatever it is that is labeled as creativity. Without that, I would be destroyed. So I wonder for those like who, because most people have a normal 9-to-5 job, even if it is in the creative side, like you can be an editor, but editing is grueling because you're not even editing your own stuff, you're editing other people's stuff, which can satiate one side of you, but still is removing 100%. Another thing. So I really don't know how people survive. I hats off to anyone who has a 9-to-5 job who just continues pushing it, because I would rather sleep on the street, which is what I was 100% ready to do. When I quit, I was like, I don't care what happens. Everything and anything is better.
I think that letting go and that acceptance, I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. Okay, so if I'm speaking in one way, it doesn't mean it's the right thing. But what I'm about to say is that what you're saying feels like a double-edged sword. And for you to even be able to pursue comedy in the way that you are, and something creative, for an artist to be able to pursue art, for a creative or any creative musicians, any creative that is able to pursue their craft and move with it, has had a time in their life where they're like, I have nothing to lose and I'm letting go of all control, you know? And when you've let go of that and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to sleep on the street. I just want to do what I love. And if that's going to take me to the streets, I'm ready to do it. That letting go, although you're not going to end up on the streets because you do have that talent, sets you up to success. But this is what keeps us also from success. It's the holding on.
It's ironic.
Exactly. It's ironic. And it's a paradox.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. That's what keeps you from living your truth. When you want control and you want to make sure that everything is okay. But then the double-edged sword comes to see, you see that some people can't leave their 9-to-5. Truly. Yeah. They cannot. They have family. They have themselves. They have nowhere to go. Maybe they don't have family. And it's just them.
For me, it came out of pure desperation and sadness. I was like, anything is better than here. There was one day I came into the office, no one was there. And for some reason I had rushed and I was driving recklessly and I probably got a fine and it was really hectic. And I finally got there and I took off my suit and no one was there. The receptionist wasn't there. PA wasn't there. Even the cleaner wasn't there. And like no one was there. And it was like 9:45. And I was like, why? Even if everyone was here, why was I rushing the way I was rushing and experiencing that heat and that agitation and traffic and parking and I got up there and I put my suit on the chair and I turned, and you remember how there was that like little ledge that with the window, there was that little white step. Yeah. And I turned and I was looking down at the shitty dirty lake water that fucking, it's supposed to be blue and it's neon green water, yeah. And I don't know why, and I was like, I want to die. Like, I was like, I don't know why. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, I don't want anymore. I don't want this anymore. Anything is better than this emotion that I'm feeling now. And maybe that is that form of that clarity. Yes. But that was that moment for me I was like, anything is better than this. Yeah. And I will have to, like, luckily, yes, I'm in a position where I am the youngest one in my family. And I know that if, like, God forbid I died, they would still find a way to live. And I know that some people don't have that. That, I guess, is the luxury that they're like, no, if I die, my family is screwed. They have nothing without me. So luckily, maybe I hold a heavier weight than some in my family, but it's still more or less balanced. Like, I can maybe help them change their life for the better, but without me, they would still survive. And that maybe was the only thing that allowed me to go like, okay, you know what? Fuck it, we have to. We really have to. And it was the financially worst time for me. And I was like, even though this is even better for me because I know I need to get my shit together. Because during COVID, I actually tried to do what I'm doing now. I tried to do content and get back into that, then hopefully leverage that into stand-up. And I couldn't. For the life of me, I was so brain fogged and so like, I felt like there was a huge weight on me. And I still feel like the same weight is there. It just feels like my muscles have grown.
What's different now?
That's it. The ability to carry that weight is easier. It's just the while you're not doing do situation. Because I remember my uncle was a father figure for me, a friend and advisor. He was a lot for me. And I remember I made $5 $1. I made $1 off a TikTok live. And that was because I had an account manager from TikTok who was trying to support me, and her name is Sasha. She was lovely. She was really like trying to encourage me to like go, and she gave me like one of those TikTok gifts, and I made $1. Or like she gave me, I remember it was like 5 cents a couple of times, and it made like $1, whatever. And I called my uncle immediately after the live, and I was like, I made $1 off this. And in my head, I'm seeing, imagine this table, and I cracked something, and there's a gold light shining from it. It might be minuscule. You can barely see the light coming out of it. But in my mind, I cracked something that had light coming out of it. In my uncle's mind, when I told him I made $1, in his mind, he sees shit on a road that I picked up. That's exactly the perspectives that were changed. And he told me, he yelled at me basically. He's like, get a real fucking job. You know, you have to take care of your family. You're not a kid anymore. Da da da. He's giving me the real like man-to-man advice that you would expect from like a very like typical like alpha male. You know, shout out to Alpha Podcast, Alpha Studios. But in my mind, I looked at it very differently. And I was like, you don't understand. He's like, no, you don't understand. And anyway, we ended the phone call. And I was there. I remember standing in my garage, like at the time, and I was like, don't cry. I was like, don't cry. I felt like I was shattered because I saw an opportunity of a lifetime. And it was because I respect his opinion more than most in the world. So when I didn't get his approval, I was like, choked up. I really didn't know how to react. I actually wanted to just break down, but I was like, he's right. And one of the things he said before he ended the call was that while you're not doing what you want to do, because I told him this is what I want to be doing, but I don't know, blah, 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 blah. He's like, while you're not doing what you want to do something. Yeah. Get a job. Make money somehow. It was like a very real reality check, like, and that became my motto. It like, while I'm not doing what I want to do, at least do something. So now I'm not actually doing what I want to do. This is a part of what I want to do. But while I'm not doing what I really want to do, let me do something, which means still go on stage, stay fresh, stay up to date with content, push, meet people, expand, learn. And it's slowly becoming more of what I want to do. So then the do while you're not doing is no longer becoming a factor in my life. It's becoming all I want to do. But that became it. So now I'm working on making longer productions, bigger, higher quality skits, like actually expanding the team, physically investing into people and bringing them aboard, like on board with me. And that was something that I wanted to do. So for the longest time, for the last 3 years, I've been working on content now. It's not what I only wanted to do. It's a part of it. But that was the do something you don't want to do while you're doing something else. And now it's finally kind of aligning. And as it aligns more, I'm attracting the right people. I'm meeting the right people. The right people are attracting me. And it's just kind of like all coming together. And it all came from that. Like, while I'm not doing something, at least do something. And the only danger is that you might get addicted to the stuff that you don't want to be doing because the salary might be good. Exactly. Or the people might be indulging you in a different lifestyle. And I mean, you know, like what that lifestyle had before. And there was a lot of being taken care of, but it was kind of like a false ceiling situation or a false floor, because
it's like a camouflage.
Yeah, like, because like, yes, you were being taken care of, but that you can't rely on someone forever, you know, like yes, someone puts you under their wing and they help mentor you and take care of you, but then for how long, you know, when you're dropped, you don't know 100%. What that's like. And some of my friends have fallen to that. They've done like, okay, while I'm pursuing music, I'll go do my 9 to 5, and then now they're like, you know, the 9 to 5 is safer, the music industry is really bad for me, it's toxic, I was exposed to a lot of stuff, and then now they're stuck to that. I'm gonna pull them the fuck out of it for sure, because I refuse to let go of people who are
truly talented,
so gifted, and the gift to the world that they can give. So I keep a little rope that I like, it's very loose, but I'm gonna pull them back into it by their choice, and I'm creating a small little like platform so that it's completely operated by them. I have nothing to do with it, but it allows them to go, like, it's an easier entry. And you know, when the barriers of entry are lower, the likelihood of someone going back into it is easier. And I want to do that. I'm doing that with my closest friends, and I would love to do that for the community around me.
Yeah.
Whether it's music, it's art, it's fashion,
Yeah.
it's
It's such a
comedy,
shame when
whatever it
someone
is.
is so creative and so talented and is not offering it to the world.
yeah.
And
It's almost selfish. It's almost
you think it's
selfish.
selfish?
I think so, because the gift that you can share is no longer a gift when you're not sharing it. You know, it then becomes selfish. If you're given something, or if you discover something that can bring
That's
joy to
within
many,
you. Yeah.
then I think it's extremely selfish to withhold
Not
that from
share
people.
it with the
you know,
world.
because like we have very few things that can stir the soul, the spirit, especially in concrete jungles.
Yeah.
Very few things. People who work with their hands and they're in different environments, they experience something different than how we experience our work. So the joy that you can bring to people who are stuck in these like literal concrete jungles is very limited. So if you can create that and share that with people, and you choose not to, you're really doing a disservice to your community, you know.
I would ask, how would you advise people, for example, who are in the 9 to 5, who are feeling suffocated and stuck, and who do feel creative, or maybe found a little spark inside of their soul and they want to express it? And of course, we both know fear can live inside you for decades and keep you from doing the thing you love. How can people in the 9 to 5 balance that or get out of it, but without sacrificing their life or their lifestyle and bringing in that kind of...
The shitty answer to that is that it sucks because you have to kill yourself. You have to really wring yourself dry because you have to do your job. That's your primary thing. But if you wake up an hour earlier to make your content, for example, because I think content is a great way because it's a reflection. You can get approval or criticism or rejection, whatever, without really getting it, because you throw a piece of content there and it's gone. Like, okay, you can look at it, you can read the comments, whatever, it's up to you. But the only way about it is by you have to make time for it, whether it's an hour earlier before work or an hour after. For me, it was before and after. There was no option. It was like, if I really wanted it to pick up, I saw what happened. And for the simple answer is that it's consistency. Quality and consistency will change the world. So eventually I started noticing that, okay, once I posted every day and the quality was slowly improving, even if it's a 0.0001% increment, as long as it's that increment, you're going to be fine. So the honest answer is consistency, and you're going to have to cut off something. Like you can't receive if both your hands are closed. So if you're gripping your 9 to 5, fine, but you have to leave this hand open. This hand is your choice now. Is it you want to work out? Do you want to socialize? Do you want to have downtime to yourself?
Something's got to give, right?
Something has to. You need to understand the concept of giving and receiving. Like if you're only stuck holding something, you're not even receiving it anymore. You're latching onto it, which means you can't receive more of the same thing. You can't receive a promotion. You can't receive a different job opportunity. It's very tight. And
you need to let go of that expectation.
You need to let go of the want for it, not
Yeah.
just the expectation. You need to understand that what is important. Is this the ship I'm staying on just so I can stay afloat, or do I want to be the captain of the ship and captain my own ship? Like, you need to choose, and that's the difficult part, because you really have to put time and effort into it. Like, we used to shoot, like Fahad is a huge, probably 90% of the reason why I was able to move, because he forcefully came to my house every day and continually pushed me. And he shot for me and he edited for me because he knew I was lazy. And at one point he had access to all my socials and he was posting for me. And he kept on saying, I don't want what you have to go away. Like, what you have should be explored. What you have should be expanded on. So without him, almost nothing would have happened.
That's a beautiful person to have in your life.
It is not a person. It's an angel.
Yeah.
And I constantly tell him,
angel.
I tell him he's an angel. Like, and every show I have that he's there, I always make him stand up. I always bring attention to that, because everyone needs someone like that. Community, your people, your tribe, everything 100%. Around that is what will make you. We're basically a creation of our subconscious, and our subconscious is so hyper aware. It's constantly taking in things. Like, now I'm only looking at you, but my subconscious is probably taking in everything. What someone is doing behind the camera, what they're not doing, what the color of a book is that adds. You never know. It's a constant you're absorbing all that information.
Yeah.
And, to go back to the point of the 9 to 5, it's just you have to stay consistent. You have to make the effort. You have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears. When you see that there is a a crack in the stone and there's a gold light shooting through, you have to understand that is everything. That's all you need to know.
100%.
Like a drop of water can change everything.
And you can feel it. You don't just see it, you actually
and
feel
Fahad
it.
was a big reason of how that got cracked, because he gave me the support and he helped me edit and he showed me certain things, and we explored different characters based on that. So the cafeteria character and everything, we created it together. The podcast style stuff, we created it together, you know. And this was like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We were doing this like before it was like a trend to do it everywhere. And it's not we invented it. We were furthest away from inventing it, but we definitely brought it to the region in a funny way. Before I met him, I was still doing content. Like I had started content in 2016. But he reminded me and he showed me the consistency thing. And I promised myself, with or without anyone, and which is what changed everything, that for 6 months I will post every single day. And in 6 months, my whole trajectory changed. And that was something that I promised myself. I said, whatever the condition is, I think maybe I missed a couple of days, but pretty much for 60 days flat, I produced a piece of content every single day. And that was that was myself holding... That was me holding myself accountable.
Okay.
What is success?
What does success mean to you?
I don't know. I don't know what success is.
It could, for me, for example, success is an ever-growing journey. And success is me being better than I was yesterday. That's me being successful in my life, in my mind. Me being clearer and less foggy in my head than I was yesterday is success to me.
Okay.
I don't believe in success that I've become the legend and you know what I mean. I believe our life is today and right now in this moment. And I try to ensure that there's no before, no after. There's only now. And if right now I'm better than I was yesterday or even an hour ago, and I'm changing parts of myself to communicate better with others, to communicate better internally in my mind, then to me that's successful. For my journey. But what is success for Shawn's journey? What does the success mean to you?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is...
So when we started, we talked a bit about that, right? And take me through that journey.
Well, because I think, it's not that I spread myself too thin, but I spread myself very wide.
Okay.
So there's... Let's say if I focused on purely stand-up, I would have considered doing my first theater show as a pure success, because that was the first time that I always looked at bars and small venues. I opened up for one comedian, Omid Jalili, who was like a childhood hero of mine, so that was a version of success for me. But I hated how I performed.
Yeah.
So I didn't consider it a success.
Okay.
People, my friends told me that it was good. I had people who came and said that they really enjoyed my opening. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, they're just saying that. So I always diminish that. Okay, fine, let's remove that element. It's a
milestone, right?
It's a milestone for sure.
There you go.
If I purely was looking at comedy, I would say performing in the Dubai Opera, that was another like huge point for me.
Yeah.
But then I diminish it again by saying like it wasn't my solo show, it was a part of a festival. But then again,
so
a
you
festival
have this kind
is
of internal talk inside of
it's
you
a disaster
that
because
kind of like
it's
diminishes everything you're...
But it also feeds it because
Okay.
I go like, it wasn't my show, it was a part of the festival. Then I'm like, yes, but it was a part of a festival.
And
yeah.
And I think your inner dialogue, just to go through
Where do you think those come from? Like, where do you think where do you think both sources come from?
I believe our inner voice is first and foremost our inner child. Okay, and parts of that inner child that wasn't fed the right kind of attention, that wasn't given the right kind of guidance, and then there's parts of our adult self that have different kinds of personalities, right? That's just my opinion. I feel like we're not just one thing.
Okay.
We're diverse. We're human beings, and diversity in terms of emotion. And I feel like every emotion has a personality. And if you try to befriend every emotion, like befriend sadness, befriend love, befriend happiness, befriend depression, befriend it instead of fight it. Like, oh my God, I'm fearing something. Actually, it's a personality. It's just like you're talking to somebody else.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective to look at it.
I had to look at it this way. I had no other option. Because if I didn't, then I'm fighting with everything and everyone, including myself.
Yeah,
and it's very exhausting and it's overwhelming. So if I befriended you all, that means we're a team. And then if I was compassionate with every emotion that I have, that means I can be there for you instead of neglect you. You know, fear is here, or sadness is here, or depression is here, or happiness is here, or light is here, or I can be with you, attend to you, and calm you. That means I give peace to me, to my mind, and that's what I call the luxury.
Okay, I just ignore it. I ignore everything.
Okay.
Because for me it was only when
I love this. I love, you know what this is? This is the yin and yang.
Yeah. I'm chaos. I'm just pure chaos. Like I have these voices in my head who are like, while they're arguing about the show wasn't yours, the show's, I'm like, I'm booking another show. You know what I mean? I'm gonna, and then while the anxiety of like, oh my god, what if you fuck up? What if you don't do well? Like while that's happening, I'm still doing.
100%.
So that chaotic balance of like, it's like, yeah, fear is such a big hold of me, but while I'm fearing, I'm like, I'm still moving in that direction.
And that's so important that you're still moving, because you're self-aware of those thoughts, that they're not really who Shawn is.
They're thoughts. I've identified that they live here.
Yeah.
And I've identified that anxiety and fear is more often than not the non-existence of something, of a reality that hasn't happened, which is crazy. Like you're fearing a reality that doesn't, like,
it's not even there
until
you
it
just
happens.
Created it.
Yeah. So like you're literally, your fear of fear is fearing something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it just feeds on itself, by the way.
Yeah, it's self-perpetuating and self-growing. Yeah, and it's crazy. So I think for me the idea of success is always going to be pushed for me, because in many different aspects I have a long way to go. In many aspects I feel like I've achieved stuff I'm proud of, but I also fear when you acknowledge stuff, you become a douchebag.
You know, when
that's one of the fears I have of like,
what,
if you like pat yourself on the back, and then you just, because I know some people who like, they did one show and they're like, I'm fucking amazing. I'm like, shut up. Like,
that's ego maybe. But I'll tell you something.
Ego.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, and this is why I find you successful. Because you're just being you. And to me, the act of being is the most successful thing you can be. The act of being you. Not afraid to talk about your vulnerabilities. Not afraid to say, you know what, I have anxious thoughts fighting me inside and deteriorating my brains and eating me up inside. But you know what, I'm on stage right here doing what I love, and that's me. Yeah. That's the most successful thing you could ever be, or anybody can ever be. Them.
I agree.
Self.
I agree. I just don't know how much of myself I'm being. That's the...
You just being this, talking about everything is you being you. But how much of yourself are you being is how much you feel you're hiding right now, right?
True.
What are you hiding, Shawn?
Everything.
Like what?
Like my entire life. I think it's a mixture of like respect to others by not sharing certain details or certain things, because I've shared experiences with other people. There's a mixture of that same concept but with family, and then there's that concept within me, because I really like to move, ironically, very quietly. I don't like to make a noise. I don't like to make an impact. I don't like to walk into a room and have everyone like...
I imagine Pink Panther.
Literally Pink Panther in the background, like but then at the same time, when I come in and I need to make a noise, I'll come and make that noise. Like I'll be loud. So for me, it's the balance of the two. So I don't know if it's hiding as much as it is just moving.
I think it's
quietly.
Privacy. Everyone has
privacy.
Their privacy.
I'm extremely private.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like, but those who can see can very much see I'm very private. Like, you don't see much about my personal life. You don't know what, I mean, that probably someone could find it if they really wanted to, because it's not that hard. But you don't know what my plate number is. You know, you don't know what my dog looks like anymore. And
privacy is very important. It creates boundaries. Okay.
I had no boundaries with an old partner of mine, and the first time I ever drew a boundary, it was
backlash.
Not just backlash. First of all, it was bulldozed like it was just a little plant, and then it was like she reacted in a sense of like, "How dare you?" And I was like, "How dare me? How dare you?" Like, what is this like hypocrite? Like, what is this hypocrisy? Like, and one of the worst things I hate is hypocrisy. Not hypocrisy itself, but the denial of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Like, if
aware.
If I'm doing something and I'm a hypocrite of it, and you call me out on it, I'll be like, fine.
But you know, givers, and you are a giver. They don't create boundaries from the first time they meet someone, because they trust that this person will not take advantage of them. And when you give that person boundary, which is a normal human boundary, This is why people keep saying, if you create boundaries, you're going to lose people.
Yes.
If you create boundaries, just expect your life to like flip around and no one you know is going to be around you. It's because these people have got used to that giving, that when you create a boundary, they're like entitled to your giving. And they don't respect that. And the person who does is the person you realize they actually loved you and respected you for who you truly are without wanting to take advantage of you. And I truly believe boundaries make or break everything in life.
Yeah.
And can show you the roots of people.
Yeah. I don't know how to set correct boundary. Maybe there's 3 points of it.
Do you feel like you don't know how? Or
I don't know how to set boundaries. I don't know how to enforce or practice it. And then I also feel really bad when I do.
We
and
need to have a session.
And I immediately like I remember setting a boundary with someone and then they respected the boundary and I felt horrible. I feel like women are so much more adept to learning in general. Like forget boundaries. But I feel like it's a lot of women who can help teach that first. Because a lot of I think the male energy is quite destructive sometimes. It can build, it can do wondrous things, but it's very destructive as well. What it can build, it can also destroy twice as fast. And I think a lot of men who, from my experience, who have tried to teach me boundaries, have been like super aggressive about it. And I'm like, I feel like there's a different way around this, but I haven't been exposed to it yet.
Okay,
but
so we'll talk.
Yeah, which would be good.
We're gonna run through a boundary course.
I've only received the like, if they cross this, you kill them, and I'm like, oh, it's always that, and it became like
true.
Because some people who I meet, like I don't even meet them.
Boundaries through anger.
Boundaries through violence is literally like
that's
how,
what it is.
Yeah, so it's
no,
always
boundaries
been,
need to be communicated through compassion and empathy, and at the end of the day, we just need to realize that this person in front of me is flesh and bones, just as I'm flesh and bones. This person in front of me has the same overthinking, chaotic thoughts in their head, and they're just projecting it at me. So, okay, I need to create that boundary, and again, the luxury of clarity of the mind, and understand how to deal with that person. Okay, well, do you have anything you want to say to the audience about following their passion, about how fear can really eat you up and keep you from doing your thing?
It's just not real. Fear isn't real. Your thoughts aren't real. Nothing is real. It's all, even this, like, life is, when you stop looking at it as real, because it feels very real sometimes, the pain feels real, the depression feels real, the loss of joy of eating something you like feels like you're losing a part of yourself. It's all fake. And you know that because as soon as you have a small break or you have something that makes you laugh, you forget about all the negativity and you're brought back to yourself, even if it's for a millisecond. So that identification just shows you that, like, it's simply, it's black or white, but in reality it doesn't even have to be any color. There is no color, there is no, like, it's all a figment of your perception. And if you choose to do and ignore certain things, your life can change, whether that be sadness and depression, or if you want to ignore your success and happiness. Both ways can change your life. If you ignore everything that you're working for, you will never be happy and you'll continue working in that direction, which is something I'm trying to remind myself to be grateful for. So I might not consider myself successful, but I'm super grateful for everything I have. And I practice that gratuity every day, even if it's as simple as writing on a piece of paper.
100%.
And just a quick little trick I learned. It's not a trick, but there was two things that I found. One was, if you number your days till you turn a certain age, you start looking at your life very differently. Like, I put my limit as 60 years old, and I did my calculation from how old I am now to I'm 60 and how many days I have to spend. It's not much. And you go like, oh shit, it's a budget. It's not a salary. You don't get this again.
And my time is of the essence.
Very important. That's one. And two, if I ask you to do 5 + 5, you can do it in your head, no problem. But if I ask you to do 600 plus 4 divided by 3, all of a sudden you're like, what? And now you have to put it on paper. You can do it, but you have to do it on paper. So don't live in your head. Bring it outside, whether that's through expression or writing.
100.
So those two are super important tools. And, you know, it really is like, it's just a figment of your imagination. Your fear doesn't exist.
And you can coexist with your fear.
Yes. And
until you let go of it.
Or you can just ignore it.
Yeah.
Because if you ignore it to a certain extent, if you achieve exactly what you were afraid of, then you all of a sudden can go like, oh, now that fear doesn't
Then it
exist
disappears.
anymore.
Yeah.
So either ignore it until you do your thing, or listen to it but still do whatever you think. Just still do. That's the only thing I have to say.
Dismiss it.
Yeah, and follow exhale, so you can be motivated to continue
So
doing.
you can be more mindful.
So you can be more mindful and hopefully find the courage to leave. Whatever you do in your life, understand that you're not alone. As unique as your pain might feel, as isolating as you might feel, you're never alone. There is a community waiting for you. There is a tribe waiting for you. And the second most important thing is that it gets better. It always gets better. So don't forget to exhale and speak louder. My parents are divorced.
Shawn, thank you so much for being
having
here.
me.
It's truly an honor.
It's an honor for me to be the refresh page.
Transition.
The refresh page,
I really appreciate you.
I
You're a
appreciate
light
you.
in my life, whether you know it or not.
Thank you.
And please don't stop.
I'll do my best not to.